This week for my final project, I'll be discussing the topic of gun control. Gun control is a very controversial topic that has a lot of people up in arms. There are many people who have different views on it. There are some who are for and against it, and I, for one, am against gun control because I believe everyone has a right to defend themselves. And during this discussion, I am going to provide examples of why gun control could fail and why I think everyone has the right to either conceal or open carry. I am also going to explain how someone who is properly trained with a firearm can stop a bad guy with a gun. Let's take a look at the Paris, France attack in November of 2015. Europe prides itself on gun control, only allowing its citizens to own a rifle for hunting purposes. In order to own a hunting weapon in Europe, you need a special permit, and it will cost almost 600 euros to get that weapon registered and that person properly trained and licensed on that weapon. Now, if people in Europe were able to have a weapon for personal safety, I think the attacks, not only in Paris, but also in England, could have been prevented if there were a few people, or if their citizens were allowed to carry guns for self-defense. The attacks in Paris, France killed 137 people, 7 of which were the perpetrators, according to CNN. In this instance, having a right to carry would have helped people because maybe a few armed citizens could have neutralized the situation, maybe reduced the death toll by half. That is something to think about. The incident at the Pulse nightclub in June of 2016 claimed 50 lives, one being the perpetrator, Omar Mateen. And that is according to the New York Times. The Pulse nightclub could have been considered a soft target because guns aren't allowed in that establishment because of alcohol laws. But if the bouncers were allowed to carry so they could defend themselves and also the people inside that club, then I think the damage or the tragedy that Omar Mateen caused could have been prevented. And the only person that would have been killed was Omar Mateen. People say that Omar Mateen shouldn't have been able to buy a gun. Well, if he had been properly documented by being on a watch list back in 2015 by the FBI, he wouldn't have been able to buy a gun legally. However, I think he would have been able to figure out a way to get a gun through the black market or other illegal channels. Statistics have proven that if a criminal wants to get their hands on a gun, they will. Taking away guns from law-abiding citizens is not the right answer. If we want to minimize gun violence and violent crimes, offenders that commit these crimes need to serve their full sentence without the possibility of parole or serve longer sentences. Most gun violence is caused by people with a history of violent crimes, according to the Gun Violence Archive. And like I said before, if someone has a violent past, chances are they're going to be prone to more violence in the future, and letting them back into the general population outside the prison will probably cause them to have more violent or commit more violent crimes in the future. In conclusion, taking away guns from law-abiding citizens is not how we are going to solve gun violence. I think more emphasis needs to be put on raising awareness for training how to properly handle a firearm. Recently in the news, there have high schools have included firearms training as part of their curriculum as an elective, showing kids how to properly handle a firearm, how to make sure that it's safe, and when to shoot and when not to shoot. I think if more schools, more high schools educated their students on that, then I think we would be better off, and we would have more people trained on how to handle a firearm in order to prevent these catastrophes from happening in the future. Taking away guns from law-abiding citizens will also set us up as a whole for future terrorist attacks, because terrorists will see a soft, vulnerable target, and will not think twice about planning an attack, because we wouldn't be able to defend ourselves against them and we wouldn't put up any resistance, and we wouldn't be able to do anything until the situation got out of control, and law enforcement or possibly military had to get involved. So this is my week 8, or my final project on gun control. This is a very controversial topic with different points of views, and I know that some may agree or disagree with what I have to say.